We just want to be confident. and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first thing on the agenda is the ordinance for the capital improvement plan. I think everyone received that on an email. Was there any questions, corrections, thoughts on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the ordinance for the capital improvement plan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's acceptable.
Harold.
Motion to waive second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to waive second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
This will have to go before commissioners for approval as well, and that will go at their meeting on the 17th.
All right, next on the agenda, Zach. Is Zach here?
It was.
It was.
His coffee cup is.
Okay, we'll come back to Zach. Next we
Yes.
have,
He's just at the door.
all right.
You're out.
Yes, we do. Would you like to share with us, Zach?
Morning.
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 I'm gonna take one, hand it down.
Sure.
This little stuff you guys can have me read over. So, the Drainage Board and myself have looked into a alternative way of funding the drains, tiles, and ditches in this county. I looked into it pretty heavy when I took over for X back in 1819. Didn't know enough about how everything worked to really jump into something new. So I thought we'll just keep going with what things have been for since the establishment of the regular drains here. So it's gone okay. Learned a lot. In the meantime, you guys have helped me out with a GDI fund, a general drain index, went from 200 grand to about 860. Has really opened up us to do work versus one project a year. We do 5 or 6 projects, bigger ones a year. That's been very helpful. Probably the single greatest thing you guys did for our office was able to allow us to use that revolving loan fund to actually accomplish some work. In that meantime, we've turned on a lot of drains, a lot of public hearings, dozens we've turned on. This whole time I was doing this, I was in close coordination with Sam, my secretary, and Steve, my deputy surveyor at the time. I said, when we get to a point, you guys, I'm going to push us till we get to that point, and then we'll have to figure something else out. So we kept turning more on, because so many drains were not being assessed. And it wasn't until last spring when Sam was balancing them, she said, Zach, we probably can't turn any more until we figure out either how to do it differently, or she said, we've reached that saturation point. And I said, okay, I agree. I said, so I went back and talked to some of our neighboring counties, how they deal with this. And we're kind of a unique position because LaGrange has a lot of drains. We have a pretty small staff. Noble County does the same thing we do with assessments, but they have a rather large staff to oversee that type of drain maintenance assessment fund. Steuben County, they're in a position because they had a pretty decent GDI and drains turned on from years ago. And even they're struggling a little bit. Talked to the neighboring counties and looked into this cum drain fund and the ups and downs of it, because I want to revisit again, just get some more input on it. So Matt Mearsman of the St. Joe River Basin Commission scheduled a roundtable discussion with the St. Joe, Elkhart, Kosciuszko, Noble, Steuben, and LaGrange to sit down and discuss the pros, cons, interest in it. Is it possible to even do? Some counties it's not possible given the demographics of the county and how it's made up. So we went to that, took 2 drainage board members, took our attorney, came back, discussed this. We've been talking about it all summer at the drainage board. And after all the discussion and everything looked into it, the drainage board was basically unanimous to pursue it. So we looked further into it. And there are several drawbacks. I'll be honest with you there. I'm not keen about everything about it, but it's it probably gets us halfway to where it'd be a perfect system. Right now, of 10 criteria we're going to meet, this takes about 5 things off the table. Gives us more flexibility, gives us a better chance to respond to the public, and just be more, I guess, timely and flexible, and a lot less fixed cost of operation for the office, I guess. So if you want to go into further details on some examples, I can, or if you guys have any questions, I'd like to respond to the questions, or stuff that you guys want to think it over, get back with me through email or address the next meeting. I'd like to have input from you guys before I pursue further. The drawbacks, I'll give you real quick, of the 2 that were from the commissioners and the drainage board are, and as me as well, I'm concerned about, is if we switch from an assessment funding to cum drain funding. Right now, my assessments fall outside the maximum property tax levy. This would transform it, but it falls within the property tax levy. I know that'd be a huge concern for you, as for me as well, because that takes money away from all other places. We have to find it within house. So that doesn't seem like a real feasible option at this time, not knowing what's going to happen in the future. So I talked to Sue Glick, our representative, and asked her about this, and she said that about the drainage code, how it words it that way. I said, it's kind of different than just this money comes in, it can only be spent on drain maintenance. I can't buy a truck, I can't redo my office, I can't just go anywhere, salaries. It stays just drain maintenance. It goes into a fund that actually you guys oversee. I have to ask money from that fund each year out of the budget to spend. I have to have projects allotted, get some estimates on what it's going to cost, and budget appropriately. And you guys would have to approve that each year. So right now, you guys don't look at that stuff. The drainage board, I bring it in, the drainage board looks at it, gets approved. So it gives you guys some more oversight on me, which I don't really, it's not a drawback for me. But nevertheless, I think you guys have helped me in the past enough with what I've done and what I want to continue to do. So I asked her, I said, is there any way to remove that from the property tax to fall within it? Can we fall without, since it kind of falls differently? And she says, well, maybe a decent option will give counties the option to do either. Because to remove it totally would throw Elkhart County and some other counties into a limbo, knowing that they have to shift it then. But at least give counties the option that you guys could decide with the commissioners on locating it outside. So I think we may be able to address that, but obviously that's another year or 2 before we give it that address. But I was just want to bring this to you guys because this cuts down on our cost of operating, and it keeps our staff low, and we can continue to move forward with drains. Right now, we're kind of at a plateau mark as far as moving forward. For every drain that we're going to turn on, we have to turn one off now. We can't just keep adding to it because of one of the bigger things is just the population increase in LaGrange, splits, transfers. If everybody's kept their own land and nobody did anything, it'd be very quick and easy. But every year, SAM has to upload these things, and it throws dozens and dozens of errors. You have to go in and physically change. Some are pretty quick. Other ones take a whole half a day just to figure out what happened to this one piece of property. So those are some of the things that we deal with, along with a lot of attorneys' issues and the flexibility. When I go out to a landowner and they have a blowed-out tile, it's on a regulated drain, I said, can you help me? I said, well, let me go back and see if we have any money. For the most part, we don't have any money in the account. That's not turned on. So I have to prepare a whole bunch of information, pick the watershed, get the spreadsheet. We've done that really quickly. We take it back to the landowner and say, here's all the stuff you have to do. And to do it legally, there's 7 criteria they have to meet. They have to hire an attorney. They have to hold findings of fact. They have to do all these stuff to just repair a $1,500 patch in a tile. It seems a little overwhelming to have a whole public hearing with the whole process to fix all these drains on a small scale. The large one's not as big a deal because we got to do the whole thing anyway. But to be responsible and responsive to people out in the public and serve them, they expect a little more from, I guess, government officials, especially myself. I want to be able to do that, and the ability to do that. And this is a decent way of doing that. It also pulls some people in that don't pay into some of these drains. One of the ditches we deal with is a deal ditch on Pretty Lake. Most of the complaints are from people on Pretty Lake, and they want that drain to be addressed. Well, only 2 people on Pretty Lake actually pay into that drain. So it's hard for me to say, oh, yeah, I'll go do this work for you when you're not paying a dime for your outlet or your inlet. So at least I can answer to them a little quicker. Lake residents make up a large population of our county. I don't say they're any less important, but when they're not paying in the drain fund, it's hard for me to do work they want me to do. So that's one example of dozens I can give you that kind of just makes it hard to do. The other drawback is on this program is we're assessing the whole county, a small amount of money to maintain all the drains in the county. So if you're a place where you don't live real close to a drain, you will be taxed on apportionment of your assessed value of your house right now. I don't like that, but I think it's at a time where it's worth looking into, given the changing demographics of LaGrange. And I still believe there are benefits from drainage, being able to drive around the county and have decent roads that drain. But that's one of the drawbacks as well, is taxing everybody to maintain the drains versus just individual watersheds. Back even 1998 probably wasn't a big deal because there wasn't a lot of the land is moving so quickly and being split so many times, it's hard to keep up with a staff of 3. So, and it's not all year round, it's just certain times of the year, usually 2-3 times a year for a couple months. But the problem I have with is I can't responsibly turn on any more drains without turning them off or finding a new way of managing it. So I'm here to ask you guys for some direction and advice on what you'd like me to do, because the option is we can maybe look at this cum drain fund. That'd be a great option. We can keep moving pretty quickly. We could just do less work. We'll just hold off but that takes a longer amount of time. Or you hire more people, which is the last thing I want to do. And the last thing you guys want to do is have more staff around here for when we don't have to. So with that being said, I don't know what questions you might have for me today, or if you guys want to hold off and email me some, and then I can come back and give you a more in-depth presentation, or what do I need to do to pursue this further to get support from you guys?
So in the cum drain situation, everyone in the county would pay the same amount of taxes on ditches according to the value of the property that they own. Is that correct?
Yep. In the code, it gives us this assessment based on the watershed, and we can use benefit. In the cum drain fund, it's based on a percent of assessed value. So it's 1 to 5 cents per $100 assessed value. So I think it's on a $500,000 house or property, it's $90. For $250,000, it'd be $45. That's how it's given me. I don't think I think there's better ways of doing it, but this stuff was came up with back in the early 1920s. And maybe Matt Mearsman said, I think there's a better way. I said, I believe there is, but these are the options I have. If you want to pursue and give me a better option in the future, we could always look into that as a cum drain fund based on benefit, is what he'd like to do. I think that's great, but that's not an option I have in drainage code right now, is to do a cum fund based on benefit. It's based on assessed value on the cum fund.
So of the counties at that round table, there was 6 counties there, and 1 is on the cum drain fund.
Elkhart County, yep.
Is there any other in the state that you know of?
Yeah, there's one other one. I think it's over by Michigan City. Support. It just depends. I think those are the only 2 right now. Kosciuszko has tried multiple times. They're in a unique position because the other drawback that the commissioners are concerned about, I'm not as concerned about as they are, but corporate limits, and anybody who lives in corporate limits of LaGrange, Wilkeville, Topeka, Shipshewana would be exempt from paying this tax. That's the drawback. I have ways to address that, so I'm not as concerned as they are. But Kosciuszko, for example, they want to go do this because they have a small staff as well, and they're overran a little bit like we are. So, but the problem is all their assessed value is located in incorporated areas. All the lakes are incorporated. So the rural areas are truly rural with not much assessed value, and their developed areas they're probably more like we probably should be, but we're not set up that way because our lakes aren't incorporated. Our town should have more annexed area, but we don't because it's too costly to try to do so. We have a lot of property value that is located outside of incorporated areas that would basically, we wouldn't have to even charge the max to get what we need. We looked at a 3 cents, not the full 5 cents, but 3. And the goal is to hopefully in time reduce that to 1 cent as time goes on, because once you get a fund established and work off of it, Elkhart County's, I think they have 2.5 million in the cum fund. they budget out about $1 million a year, spend 800,000 to $1 million out of that. And they generate about 500 grand on the taxes, but the interest from the whole thing pays for about the other 300 grand of work they do. So, but they still, that fund is overseen by the council. The surveyor's office has to budget that in each year, how much they're going to plan on spending out of that, and the council has to approve it. So it's definitely got oversight, obviously. It's not just a free for all, I take this money and do what I want with it. You guys can ask me about where the projects are located, how big they are, how many each year, if you guys need to, feel so.
Yeah, 'cause I guess, like you had mentioned, one of my biggest hesitations with it is that 800,000 that's coming in now roughly is all in addition to our property tax income budget. In this case, that 800,000 would go away. You would get closer to $1 million, but it would
850,
be 850,000. So
about the same.
it's going to switch. I understand the load that it's going to take off you, the ability that's going to give you to fix issues in a timely manner. But I also see $800,000 coming out of our budget that we aren't taking out of our budget right now. A lot of positives, a lot of negatives, a lot of thought needs to go into it before we make a move like this. Because if I understand right, once we make that move, we can't go back. Is that correct?
I don't necessarily believe so. I believe you
Okay.
can go back. You usually don't go back because it's
Too hard.
too hard. I mean, if we got that kind of work established with a 3-person staff and went back and we had all those, basically you'd have to hire more people on or go back to just slowing way down again. I think it's possible.
And then the money already in those ditch funds is used up first before this. So there would also be some leeway of getting into these funds for a while, hopefully.
Correct. That's why I think we could charge a little less, build it up, we'll use some of these funds for the small stuff we don't have funds for right now. And the ones that have positives, we run those down to zero and start maintaining those other drains with the money and time. So it gives us a little bit of a transformation time there to not just eat up the money that comes in, but actually get a little bit of savings before we just dive into it and utilize all of it. So we could actually probably start at a hair lower. But I think the drainage board, when we looked at it, was like the 3 cents was kind of a good place to start and then see where it goes and then probably walk it down from there, because that's kind of on the high end we thought was what we needed. We want to max it out. But I do agree with you, Jim. I don't think it's feasible to do if it falls within the property tax levy. But if we were able to work with legislation to remove that and have it separate and you guys make a choice, is it something you guys would support?
Again, more thought.
Okay.
Because all of a sudden you're going to have a lot of people that aren't in a watershed that aren't getting any benefit from it that are paying into it. I understand the concept of the county together and benefits outside of our space, but
It would fall, according to what I know, it'd fall, you wouldn't even notice. I mean, the property taxes would go up, obviously, but it wouldn't be right now you have a property taxes, then every time you turn a drain on, it's a separate line item. And that doesn't always go over so well either, because people who came in the public hearing were expecting it. A lot of people take that, throw it in the trash. Didn't come to the public hearing, didn't write a letter, didn't call, have any questions until they got their taxes. When they come and pay them in the spring, they always stop at our office and wonder what the heck happened. So we have to have that public hearing, it seems like dozens and dozens of times over again for every individual that didn't read the letter or didn't call before. So it's like, seems like, let's not turn one of these on. She goes, every time we turn one on, it's just a huge influx of calls and foot traffic to basically educate what they're paying the $22 for. That's what eats up a lot of the time, and also stress. At some point, when you have to notify all these people and raise their taxes, it gets very stressful. I can see why Rex didn't want to pursue it a lot, because it's not popular, it's not fun, and it's a lot of stress for what little bit you try to get. We spend so much energy trying to get some funds in the account. By the time you get to spend them, you're about wore out. You're just like, okay, that was a whirlwind. Now we got to go out and try to lead a project with this money, which is this new system would focus us more on construction and spending the money appropriately versus just trying to fight to get some scraps to utilize. So that's where it takes a lot of burden off and basically a lot of stress as well, because it is. I mean, I've raised a lot of taxes on a lot of people, and it hasn't been enjoyable, and it's not fun at all. Actually, I've lost a lot of people I used to talk to about it, and I guess it's part of the job, I've had to live with it. But like I said, I wish there was a little better system, but I think this is better long-term for what we're getting to in LaGrange County, in my opinion, and Drainage Board as well. They've been sitting on this board for 6 years now. And after going through all the public hearings and seeing how much time, energy, and effort it takes, they're like, boy, this is kind of archaic and obsolete for LaGrange County. And even some that know that this is more of a, I guess you call it a socialist type way of collecting money, they're said, I hate it, but we're getting to a point in LaGrange with demographics and how things are changing and keeping a low staff. If I had 6 people, 7 people like Randy does at Noble County, we just keep breezing like this because you have enough people to manage it adequately and keep growing. Like I said, I don't want to have to do that because I don't think we need to. We have options to avoid that. So I'm looking into try to save money in some aspects and save cost, adding cost to the county and time, and also providing a better service to the people because it gives us some flexibility on how to serve them, I guess. So
You mentioned that funding rate. You want to start it at 3 and you can lower it. Can you raise it at any time as well? Or once you
think it
lower it, it
takes-
stays?
according to what I've heard, it takes an action from you guys and the commissioners to raise. I think lowering it's easier. But
Right.
raising it obviously would have to go through a process of you guys, and because you guys would look at it and say, why are we raising it? I mean, if I'm spending all the funds and I don't have enough and we're falling behind, but realistically, with a staff of 3, we can't see much more than about $1 million would be the max work we can oversee in a year of 2 people basically overseeing that work. You start doing more than that, you got to have third-party engineers or contractors bring in another person to do that. But so that's kind of the limit of it. Obviously, costs will go up, but I don't foresee. Elkhart County has had theirs like a higher one. They've raised it, they lowered it to 1% or 1 cent per $100 assessed value, and they've kept it there for the last 20 years. And they're able to work off that money pretty easily. He said, because and there's a curve here, just so you know, too, when the drains are managed a certain way and get over like past the curve, costs should come down. It's just when you're butting up against 30 years of neglect. And I look back and I get kind of depressed sometimes, but we've done a lot of work and it's served a lot of benefit to a lot of people. But with the staff we have and the resources, it's kind of getting to a point where we got to figure out another option if we're going to keep moving that way. Like I said, worst case scenario, we just don't turn it on until we turn some off and just come over a plateau effect. But that's not kind of how I'm driven. Is just we're maxed out. We just need to quit. Either I'm more pushing it to where we can keep moving, and also not be such a burden on the office administration of 3 people here.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like the positives. We've got the negatives. One thing I would like to ask of you, Zach, is if we could get analysis of all the drains in the county, where they are, what kind of shape they're in, just so that we have some sort, like the highway did with their trucks, a plan from year to year. And I know the planning it with drains is much different because most of the work that has to be done is emergency situations that come up. But if we could at least know where all the drains are, names, and have an idea, because this is going to be a slow process to make a move like this. I understand the benefit from the county because the workload, the work group that's there can handle the workload. They're getting to the point now where they can handle it. They just can't turn any more on. So you have to turn off before you do. We just need to proceed very slowly with lots of questions.
Would you guys be in favor of having a third party assess all those drains? Because to do it with 2 people and to do an accurate assessment of all of them, is basically kind of infeasible. It'll be 3-4 years for I got back and I have to quit everything I'm doing just to go out and walk and look at these drains. So just like the culvert inventory, the highway does every 10 years. I mean, to do it on that large a scale on so many pieces of acres, I could do probably 10-20%. Okay. I mean, ones I know about, I know about 20% of them pretty good. The rest 80% with 2 people, it'd take you years to figure out. And
Zach, are you telling us that this is not on a computer program? The drains are not on a computer
they're on
program?
a GIS shape file, yes, but the drains themselves each have an individual file. Probably half these drains have not been looked at since 1920. They got put in, established, walked away from. But we're at a point now they're 100 years old. They're failing or have failed or people have gotten there kind of half replaced them and manipulated them to where they're half replaced, half not. We've never stepped foot out there.
So when it comes to computer technology I readily acknowledge I know enough to be dangerous. So does your computer software tell you, one, obviously you're saying it tells you where the drain is. Does it tell you when it was put in? Does it tell you when a drain has had maintenance done to it?
The ones that we have worked on while I've been here, I can answer for. That's probably 10 to 20%, probably
Okay,
20%.
but I'm asking about the computer software.
No. It's a shape file put in by, a lot of them are done by Blaine when Rex was here. We've updated them as we put tiles in, mostly tiles because those you can't see, ditches you can see on an aerial. But the tiles, we GPS them now to the inch for grade and or location. And Corey uploads those GPS shots on the computer, can snap his line right to it. So anything we put in since we bought the GPS unit is right where it needs to be. And we have good inventory on when they're put in, how they're put in, size, catch basins. Anything new while I was here has a really good grasp on of condition and location and the assets of the catch basins. When Rex is here, it was kind of 50-50 on the profiles on tiles. The ditches themselves, you could fly with a drone or physically have to walk to get a good inventory of what's going on there, because even a drone or aerial footage doesn't do it justice as far as have to get on your feet and have to walk it and see how many trees are on it, how many trees are down, what the ditch banks look like, is it washed out, what's the gradient like. It takes a physical inspection, just like you would a culvert for a highway. It takes somebody getting out of the vehicle and looking at it.
So I guess what I'm asking, get us a list of the drains.
Yep, I have
And
that.
if you happen to have which ones you've done maintenance on, if you could tie that into it, get us that list now.
I'll do the same thing. I'll
Start.
get you an aerial of all the drains. I'll highlight the ones we've done work on. And then I only assume the ones that haven't been touched. I've been to a lot of ones we haven't worked on that are regulated drains that are just completely junk.
Yeah.
But nobody's complaining about it yet, so we don't do anything. Not saying that's what we should do, because some of these actually are liabilities, because if it sucks a bunch of dirt in, or if you got a big open hole, and if I see it and I know it's a hazard, if somebody gets hurt, and they're gonna, I mean, just saying, not saying that we get a lot of lawsuits from drains, but it's scary. You could walk on a piece of ground and get sucked in by a big suck hole, and it could kill somebody really fast. Most farmers are aware of these issues and kind of be careful, but doesn't mean it's right to just neglect or say, oh yeah, it's a problem. Just, it's a county asset, just like a road. When it comes in disrepair, we should probably start looking into and repairing it as a responsibility.
All right. Well, thank you, Zach.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
You guys email me any questions you have or concerns, and then I'm gonna readjust this the next meeting, and I want to follow up on a couple things as well. So thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. President, it would seem that an assessment of that office's software might be an invaluable resource here to give them the tools they need. And I appreciate Zach's concern about staff, but in this day of technology, it seems to have an adequate computer system that would track all of that would be invaluable, that at a keystroke, they would have the necessary information. And I don't know what the next step would be there, but, I would suggest, per the council's wisdom here, that we have our IT people sit down and help to assess that. I know software isn't cheap.
Well, and if I understand right, Zach, maybe you can support me or tell me on this. Without the surveyor taking the steps to put it in the software, do we have the software now where you're entering it? We've got the coordinates, we've got the depth, we've got it, but you can't do it unless you're doing maintenance on the ditches. Is that?
Yeah, physically go out and inspect a buried. Sorry about that. To physically go out and inspect a buried tile that was put in 100 years ago, not knowing where it's even at. Today we put catch basins in at turn points or road crossings. Back then they didn't put a lot of catch basins in because I don't think it was a real popular thing, and they just buried clay tiles.
But anything you've done maintenance on, you know right where it's at.
Oh, right
That-
to it.
See,
on the
it's a
computer.
It's a build, Harold.
So
Yeah,
you're
it's not something.
updating as you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Be time consuming and to go and do every one of them in the
that we're not
county at this
working on.
point.
Yeah, anything
Yeah.
new that we reconstruct or maintain, we make sure, even stuff that gets fixed, just small patches, I always go out and shoot it. So we have a location and depth for future purposes of reconstruction. When we reconstruct that section. Before, there was no really way of doing it. The GPS itself has been a huge game changer on time, how much we can do. I mean, when I work with Rex, we go out there and line level thousands of feet of tile with a level and pins, measuring out, putting 100-foot pins. The time it took and the resources, I could see why I forget that. We're not doing drain reconstruction. That's all it takes. We do one a year because that's all really you could physically do. Now one guy can go out there, traverse across there, come back, lay a profile, and have it ready to go within a day. Before it took weeks, and just how we do things is really a lot quicker. So we're
So-
outrunning the system that we're working in, I guess. And so either just run slower or bring the system up to keep up, I guess.
So moving forward, Harold, the thought is, I think the software is adequate and the abilities to do the tracking are improving and they're doing the records from here on. But to go back.
The old
That's good to
untouchable.
hear,
Yeah.
because from what you were telling us, there was no mention of the software, and I'm thinking, where
'Cause
are
it's
we
part of the
at?
plan, and
Yeah.
so they don't think about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I could tell you stop for hours up here. Unfortunately, even the ones our worst drains, I have to say this, are probably put in while Rex was here between 2010 and 2016. We have tiles that are 100 years old that are better than that. You think, oh, these are new tiles, it'd be great. Unfortunately, they had a lack of oversight at that time. Only Rex was doing the job. And the contractors doing the work at that time, if you know, there wasn't a lot of houses being built, construction being done. So contractors have been very cheap on these construction projects. And then in order not to lose money, we do them really fast. So they get slopped in by contractors that normally wouldn't put tile in. And we've had to repair and spent tons of money on just that 5 years of, I guess, bad installations with bad contractors. So I've learned from that not to go that route and actually have more direct oversight of those tiles going in, meaning we watch them as they go in, we shoot them verified grade, make sure they're bedded in stone, make sure laterals are hooked up. I guess the oversight was lacking before just because of a low staff and also the technology. Rex is by himself. I don't know how he even locates that stuff without putting a total station up and having a person hold a transit. You'd have to have another person even do that, which in that time was an archaic way of doing it, and it is today.
All right, well, thank you,
Yeah.
Zach. We've got
Thank
a
you.
meeting now at 9:00. I think Jeff Peters is on the computer. Is that true?
Is he there yet? Okay.
I am.
Got his voice.
Will we see him?
He's there.
There he is.
Oh, there
Oh,
he
he
is.
Sammy, sorry about that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you all?
Good. So I guess this morning we're looking at moving forward with a highway garage. And we're trying to figure out the best way to do funding in this new era.
Okay. You still have all the options that you previously had for bonding under the property tax scenario. Now, the new bill provided a couple other restraints that had to do with existing debt service tax rates. But today, you don't have that outstanding debt on your property tax rolls. So therefore, you won't hit any of those thresholds. So the thresholds for property tax are a project of this size. And again, we're talking, I believe, in a ballpark of 25 million. For 2026, the threshold for a referenda debt is about 20,600,000. So if you were to fund it with property tax and go through those procedures and enough taxpayers filed a valid petition, it would have to go on a referenda. the new law says that those would have to go on a general election. So I believe your next general election would be November of next year. There are options, though, where you can cure the debt with property tax, but pay it with income tax. And that keeps you from going through all the procedures that you have to go through for a property tax approved debt. And the size of the debt that you're going to be at potentially, your general obligation bond cap, and I know we've kind of talked about this a little bit before. Your general obligation bond cap is the amount in which you can bond debts against property tax without having a building corporation, which I believe you had the last time you did the jail project. And that amount is 1/3 of 2% of your net assessed value. So for 2026, that amount is $24,866,000 and some change. What we normally tell people is if you do a large project in the form of a building that's going to occupy a lot of your general obligation bond cap, it is better to do a lease rental and set up the building corporation, because those lease rental bonds do not count against your GO bond cap. And why we like to keep some of the GO bond cap free is that you may have items, equipment and so forth, that would not be easy to lease finance. And therefore having general obligation bond capacity is important for you as a unit of government to have that flexibility to issue. So in this circumstance, even if you cut the price down below that 24,866,000, we would advise you to go ahead and do a lease rental so that you leave the general obligation bond cap available for other things. So if you fund the project through a lease rental tax, with the income tax scenario, you won't have to go through the same processes you have to go through for property tax. And a couple of those for property tax, because of the size of the project, you would have to do a whole series of financial disclosures to the taxpayers and have 2 public hearings. And again, the taxpayers would have the ability to file a petition with enough numbers to put it on the ballot. On the income tax side, and both of these I'm kind of talking out of hat, bond counsel may refine it a little bit differently. But on the income tax side, if you were to make the repayments from your income tax distributions, I believe the only remonstrance would be for someone to say that the lease rental is unnecessary or unwise, which is a hard threshold to prove. And if they file the petition in that form, I believe what you get is a hearing before the DLGF. And again, you look at your building, your decision as a fiscal body and county executive that this building needs to be replaced, etc. And this is the size that it needs to be. Therefore, it's hard to prove that that lease to fund it would be unnecessary or unwise. So a lot less resistance if you go the income tax side. In regard to income tax, the new legislation is pushing you again away from property tax and toward income tax. So in the fiscal plan that we had sent up earlier in the year, you have a good amount of excess annually. If you went to the maximum amount of just the 1.2% allowable for the county, you would have about $3 million a year in excess, which would give you more than sufficient funds to pay debt service on a building like this. Has the council or the commissioners given any thought to funding it through property tax or income tax?
Well, that's what we're trying to look into is our options so that we can decide our best route to go.
Okay. Again, the path of least resistance is income tax. But again, you're kind of put in this position by the legislature of, picking winners and losers, whether you put things on property taxes or income taxes. And they are constantly pushing you toward income tax and away from property tax. But, property tax is still an option. It just has some additional hoops to jump through and has some potential hurdles that might slow you down considerably.
Did you guys have any questions? Thoughts?
Jeff, this is Harold Gingrich, would there be any value to considering a split in the payment, or is it one way or the other? Either property tax or income tax? Do we have to choose one or the other, or would there be any scenario where it might be beneficial to do a split?
You can do the split if you believe that, that mitigates picking winners and losers between income rich and property rich. However, if you are going to utilize any of the property tax for repayment in a debt that size, you will have to go through all of the property tax requirements.
That's what I was wondering.
Yes.
Okay.
If we looked at a mix, like Harold was saying, but rather than property tax or income tax, possibly using some major moves money with payback to ourselves on it, how would that look?
Again, if we get into a position where any property tax is going to be used to fund any sort of repayment, where you're going to put it on the debt service rolls of the property tax rolls for debt service levy, you will have to go through the tax procedures, because this will be a controlled project and it measures the project irrespective of whether you put cash up front.
Okay.
Unless it is grant money. So, if you had received some federal highway grant money, that would not count toward that threshold of the 20,600,000.
Okay.
Otherwise, if it's your own money, it counts, and you have to go through all the procedures.
All right. So you brought up grants. How many option for grants are there out there for something like this? Any idea?
I've not heard anything for the highway garage.
Okay. Anything else for Jeff?
You've given us a lot to think about, Jeff. Thank you.
I'm good at that. Yeah. And if you guys hash through it and want to see some different scenarios of what it looks like property tax wise, income tax wise, and the impacts therefrom.
All right.
Just email those down to me.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you for giving us your time this morning, Jeff Peters.
Thank you, sir.
Hey,
Always good to talk with you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good to see you.
I think it'd be good to see those examples of the different impacts with property tax versus
Income tax.
income tax. If you could provide those, would be.
How do we get those, Kathy? You got 'em.
Well, he said you could email him any questions.
Okay, okay.
And he'll do up any analysis you want for him. For
So-
you.
So basically asking questions of what it would look like income compared to property and what our income is from the two type of thing.
Yeah, I am intrigued by the major moves concept. When I brought up the idea of a split, I had not thought about that. But that money is tied to economic development, and clearly having good roads and maintaining our roads fits that to a T. And
What's
if
the
we could do
timeframe we have, the way he's talking, if we go property tax, the time frame before we even get started is lengthy.
If they remonstrate,
if they remonstrate,
then we have to have.
then we have to have it on
Right.
the ballot in a year from now.
What's the balance of major maintenance?
You were gonna ask that. I'm saying.
I was gonna ask,
Ask me,
yeah.
I don't remember.
I
Kathy.
don't
had
remember.
it down.
Is it
I hate
20
to
million?
say it wrong.
No,
it's
I
not
was
10.
thinking it was somewhere around 17.
That's what I was thinking, but I,
10.
No, it's more than that.
Because we still do have income coming in from County Road 200 North
Yeah.
and the Justice Building, correct, Kathy?
yes.
But if we do a combination between income tax funds that we're already receiving and major moves that we
like
already
that.
have, that provides a great option for us that minimizes the effect on the taxpayers.
Well, if we're paying
Either
it back
avenue,
to
it's gonna
major,
affect the
yeah, if
taxpayer.
we're paying it back to major moves, it's still coming out.
Well, that's
prices
true.
somewhere,
but-
but we're paying ourselves interest instead of someone else, which
Mhm,
if we've
mhm.
got the ability. Makes a little more
Uh,
sense.
I'm just scared to even think about going property tax, not knowing what's gonna happen here in the future.
I agree with that one.
But I will send an email to Jeff, try to get some information on income tax, property tax and how that looks, and we'll look further
And
to it.
be sure to mention that major moves
Yes.
piece too. Just-
Yeah, because that's not property tax money.
Right.
Right.
It's separate. So,
Okay.
Peter, have you as commissioners, have you talked about any of these options?
We didn't talk about how it's gonna get paid necessarily.
You just want us to do it.
Just won it last week, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably more than I'm not down there every day, but, no, I mean, I do think it's a combination of major moves and probably the property, not the property,
Right, income tax.
would make more sense.
And there are deadlines with increasing income tax. I know the property tax, he said potentially could go to a fall referendum, but with income tax, there's a deadline that you have to hit.
Mhm.
Nothing's gonna happen in I mean, you can work in 26, but it's gonna put it out because you've got a deadline to hit to change your income tax for it to become effective, usually the next year.
Correct.
Because I think,
It's just nothing's gonna happen fast.
yeah. So as a council, we don't want it to happen fast. We want it to happen best for everybody in this county. And I think that's what we need to take our time, look over. Your garage may not be quick, but we want to make sure we get it done right and to the best of our ability so that it works for everybody.
Is there a time frame? I know the longer we wait, prices go up on materials. So that quote, do we have a quote?
Like
Just
the
estimates.
Overall,
Mm-hmm.
we won't have an overall quote until 90 days after they figure out what we're doing.
Okay.
The 25 million and the 26.1 million are just estimates. Rough number.
Right.
Yeah. And those are the high
High.
end, right?
Yeah, so,
Very, very high.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we need to figure out what we want to spend and design from there.
Right. We gotta see what we're capable.
I know
and
one thing,
spellable.
25 million ain't gonna float, so
That's too much.
with me anyway.
So there'll be a lot more discussion. I'll get some more information from Jeff on income and property taxes. And we will keep discussing and keep moving. Next on the agenda, we've got transfers. The transfers were sent out. I did have one thing that kind of caught my eye. Public Defender's Office, they're moving from case management and position that's opened into office furniture and equipment. Now, we have budgeted for them 15,000 for next year for office furniture, and he's wanting 7,000 this year. That kind of struck me, so I thought I'd get you guys' opinion because this transfer of funds for office furniture, and I knew we had put some office furniture into the budget for next year. So between the two, we're looking at $22,000 worth of office furniture, which seems a bit much to me.
Mhm.
I think they can wait a while, can't they?
and they're operating now.
Right.
And that was the purpose of putting it in the budget, is to get furniture next year, not this year.
So if they need this budget for this year, they're gonna have to reduce next year's. So I don't know how to proceed from here, but I think we need to,
I think we should need to table that one.
If-
Because is it a need or is it just a want?
I had an email, it was like conference table.
Oh, it's all new already?
It's not that, it's, I think it's in, like shared space, not the individual offices. But if you want to do the transfer and approve it for this year, you can have me advertise a reduction in appropriation for the 26 budget. And I can advertise that and have that ready for your next meeting if you want. If you want to wait on this, you can always do the reduction next year on the 26 budget if you want to do that. So there's options. It's a timing thing. You just have to tell me how you want me to
because
advertise it.
if we've let them have 15,000 for next year, that's fine that they take some of it this year, but not have it available for next year. If things are moving faster, that is an option.
If they got new furniture in there now, how did they pay for it?
They planned it for that in their budget.
Mhm.
Okay, so
They knew they'd have to.
I wouldn't want to know what they need the 7,000 for. What are
I
they
have an email
purchasing?
somewhere. I'm sorry, but it was like conference room, letter explaining the request to purchase and a quote. I don't have it right here in front of me. I'm so sorry.
I say we table it until ask.
Yeah, let's find out more information.
We've got another meeting this year,
So if
Mhm.
somebody wants to,
and I don't know that we need a $7,000 conference table.
There was more than that, but I'll get the letter today. I'm sorry.
Okay.
so I'd entertain a motion to table that public defender
I'm-
transfer.
That was my motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table the public defender transfer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Is there any others on that list?
No.
I'd move to approve the remaining transfers.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the remaining transfers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Back and I'll fix it before everybody signs it.
Is it both of those? Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next on the list is the legal claims. We sat down and went over the legal claims one by one, went through everything. Litigation was $9,329. There was a couple that were split with the planning and zoning maps. Planning and zoning's paying half of that. Redevelopment Commission has been paid. Total legal claims, $29,454. And that being said, I will make a motion to approve the legal claims.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the legal claims. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, is there anything else to come before the council at this time?
Yes, and for the purpose of our minutes, with tomorrow being Veterans Day, I would make a motion that we as a council express our appreciation to our active service members and to our veterans for their service to our country. Having been at ground zero last week, just gave me a new appreciation for our freedom and what our men and women who are active duty and who have served as veterans. So that would be my motion, that we as a council express our appreciation to them.
Thank you, Harold.
We need a second for that.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we, as a council, show our appreciation to the veterans. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There it is.
Wow.
And today, Jeff, am I correct
You
that
are correct.
today is the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Marine Corps?
That is correct.
I don't look a day over 250.
Yes.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We're adjourned.
Go on to get that revised for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. we gotta sit down.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jeff, it's pretty cool. The thing says today's 250th anniversary.